YouTuber ImAllexx has finally responded to the allegations made against him nearly a year ago, back in June of 2024, in regard to a very toxic relationship where he was accused of being emotionally and physically abusive with his ex-girlfriend Alice Hez. If none of that is ringing a bell for you, I'll go over a brief summary, but before I even do that, I'm going to give you the quickest TLDR of everything that came out in his nearly 2-hour-long video. If you don't have a lot of time and you're happy with just a couple sentences summarizing the entire video, Alex is making the case that it was not only him being incredibly toxic in the relationship, but Alice herself was also incredibly toxic. He apologizes multiple times, expresses multiple times that none of it is redeemable, and goes on to provide evidence to support the claims that she was manipulating the details and facts of the situation to further benefit herself in this entire situation. Now, if you're interested in getting more details from his video, I'm going to go over the main points of it and flesh them out for you guys in this video. But before I jump directly into that, let's go over a brief summary of what had happened leading up to this. So ImAllexx is a commentary YouTuber who was fairly popular leading up to the incident that had happened. As you can tell, he stopped posting afterwards, but he made just general commentary videos about his likes, dislikes, about various subjects and relevant topics, etc. And on June 15th, an ex-girlfriend of his released this on Twitter. "Here's my statement on the situation I've been scared to speak out on. It's best it was made public how horrible this person with a platform is. I'd hate to see another woman go through this. Please read this statement first before continuing." This linked to a Google Drive folder including an 84-page document going over all of the things that she would talk about, including screenshots showing the verbal and physical abuse that she had received during this relationship, as well as video and audio evidence to support these claims.
And that's something you really need to fucking fix.
I'm gonna bash your head against the wall with a brick if you don't shut the fuck up. Because this one, genuinely, this one, you this. Now, when it's too late, you admit that you did everything wrong. But when it actually matters, when you should lay down like a good dog, you don't do it. You fight for some reason. I don't know why you fight, because you're losing, because you end up admitting that you all up anyway.
Now, I showed you those two specific examples because they're the most well-known, but suffice to say, without Alex responding, he received an immense amount of hate because there was evidence backing up these claims that he was being incredibly toxic to a point of being physically and verbally abusive. And so now, 9 months later, ImAllexx has made a response video that's just shy of 2 hours. Quick aside before we get things started off, I am in no way defending Alex's actions or anything of that nature, as he himself does not defend those actions and repeatedly throughout this video apologizes and admits to the fact that the things that he has done are irredeemable. It's a YouTube apology, so in that sense, it's very hard for people to take these kinds of apologies seriously. My goal for this video is just to showcase and summarize the main points that Alex brings up as he makes the claim that a lot of the situation that had happened between him and Alice was manipulated by Alice to make it look like he was the only person that was being so toxic. A majority of his video is focused on debunking some of the claims that she had made or clarifying when she chose to omit certain bits of information, things like that. That being out of the way, let's get started with the first point that he makes. This point has to do with Alice Hez claiming that she had filed a police report against him and was going to have him charged for what he had done during the relationship. Alex contests that he was never contacted to do an interview or that he was charged with anything that Alice has referenced to in any of the posts that she has made online. But moving on to the next point, Alex is arguing that this situation that Alice describes in her document of physical abuse did not happen. Alice alleges in her document, after a particularly heated argument, that she went to walk downstairs and he grabbed my hood and pulled me back until I fell on the floor. He told me that I'm not getting away, so I got up and made a run for the bathroom. He gets in my way and grabs me, puts me in a headlock, and covers my mouth because I'm screaming for him to get off of me. Alex then goes back into his messages and provides screenshots at around the time frame that Alice says that this incident had occurred, showcasing the fact that neither of them are discussing anything in the realm of, what she is alleging to have happened, or at the very least, they are not talking to each other in the way you would expect two people, after fighting each other and getting physically violent, how they would speak to each other after such an event.
To claim we had a huge fight where I'd physically assaulted Alice is a lie. I never did these things Alice has accused me of doing, because this never happened. Alice has texted her mum and used this as proof that this event had taken place after screenshotting the text in real time, as the messages display the words today instead of the date that they were taken. Alice knew she would be using them in her document and that she had been planning this full story about me.
So like you just heard, he's claiming that she was setting up this narrative later on, and that's why there is no evidence back from when she alleges that it had taken place. Now, while he does provide those messages around that time frame, that is not directly, completely absolving him of this allegation, but I'm interested to hear what you guys think. The next major allegation that Alex puts forward is that Alex's ex-girlfriend Alice was actually being physically abusive towards him.
I had asked Alice not to come back to the house and that I would leave her stuff in the garage because I wanted to break up and I didn't want her near me anymore, as she had been assaulting me and threatening me since we had started dating. When Alice had left the house, I finally thought I could escape our relationship and that I wouldn't have to see her again. This is when Alice began to start blackmailing me and threatening me because I was asking her to stay away. Alice told me that she was going to come back and that she was only gone for a night. When I told Alice I didn't want her to come back, she accused me of physically abusing her. Alice then threatened to report this lie to the police to stop me from trying to leave our relationship. I knew that now, if I tried to leave, Alice would accuse me of physically abusing her, as she had used this to get me to back down from trying to end our relationship in this conversation.
I just wanted to pause here to showcase something that you're going to notice across the entirety of what we're going over, which is that neither of these people are mature and they talk to each other with the maturity of children. Neither of these people should have been in a relationship, and that's going to be made clear through just about every single message that you end up seeing in this video. Neither of these people handle conflict well at all, and seeing all these messages makes that fact very apparent. During this subject, he also makes a point to showcase the fact that Alice on multiple occasions will crop out any messages of Alex denying any of her allegations about him assaulting her, even when they're speaking to each other.
In the full thread that Alice hasn't shown, I told Alice that I'd only tried to hug her, as I was not talking about grabbing Alice at all at any point in the conversation that she has tried to misrepresent. And when we discussed this at a later date, Alice says that I had hugged her and that I had walked away to avoid us fighting, which is not what she has tried to portray in her document at all.
Here is another instance of him refuting some of the claims Alice had made in regard to the verbal abuse.
I don't want to have angry text messages with you, and I also don't want to be accused of doing stuff that I haven't done.
Alice then mocked me because I brought up her slapping me. Alice texted me in response saying, "You're mad if you want to say I'd slap you," even though Alice has now admitted she slapped me in the document that she posted. In these texts, I said that Alice pushed me away and gave me 24/7 to the point where I didn't want to sleep in the same bed as her. When I said that Alice can't go around screaming in our house, it was because it was attached to the message where I was explaining why I had started to sleep downstairs because she would punch, kick, and scream at me, so I've been forced to sleep on the sofa.
This actually leads into the next point that he makes, which is that over time during this relationship, he had developed a skin rash, which he claims was induced by stress and progressively got worse during their relationship, and had culminated with him being kicked out of his own bed, literally, by Alice, and he was forced to sleep on the couch.
I was told by my doctor to try and avoid stressful situations and to stay dry and avoid warmth, as it was seemingly making it worse. This is why I would sleep with no shirt on. When we first started dating, it was minimal, around the stomach area, but a few months into our relationship, it had spread to my entire body. Throughout my time with Alice, it got worse, and the stress of our relationship and other issues I was having at the time were having a huge effect on me. Alice started by calling me fat in text and in person, and this was because she wanted me to keep my shirt on, because she did not like my illness and she didn't want to see it or be around it. We were in bed together and Alice told me when I took my shirt off that if I was going to do that, then she wanted me to sleep downstairs. I told Alice I wasn't going to do that because I wanted to sleep in our bed that night, and she had complained that I spent too much time away from her. This angered Alice and she called me names. I ignored her and turned away so I could go to sleep. Alice turned around in bed and kicked me in my lower back, and I told her to f*** off. And then she kicked me even harder and then started to donkey kick me in my neck and in the back of my head. Alice had done this so hard that I fell out of the bed while she was still kicking me. I proceeded to get incredibly angry and I shouted at Alice and I insulted her, and this is something that I deeply regret doing. When I messaged Alice about this on Facebook, she said that she didn't just start kicking me hard. The argument had got worse and we both started insulting each other. Alice then pushed me and tried to hit me. This is when I grabbed Alice by the arms and I pulled her to the floor. This is the only time that I tried to defend myself after Alice had tried to attack me after kicking me in the back of the head.
So as you just saw, he provides details and evidence like those screenshots showcasing the fact that Alice admits to the fact that she was indeed kicking him while they were in the bed. But moving on to what I've seen a lot of commenters on his video taking a particular note of is a lot of these details around the cat. The first allegation that Alex talks about has to do with the allegation made by Alice that Alex was joking about breaking the cat's neck.
For context before I read them, me and Alice were in bed together when our cat Bear entered the room, jumped onto the bed and sat on my chest. I began talking to the cat in a silly voice and Alice was laughing with me. I was jokingly saying I was going to eat him if he got any closer, and it was very apparent that I did not mean this literally and that I was in fact joking, as we had done together throughout our relationship. Alice even acknowledges that I was joking in her document at the time. Alice said this in her document. He then goes on to say I have punched him in the face over the cat. This is Delulu Island we're on now, because he's trying to grab onto anything he can to create his story.
Now, he doesn't provide any evidence to support this, just outside of him framing it and explaining it from his point of view, so take that as you will. But this continues on to his next point, where he talks about and provides evidence of Alice admitting to the fact that she was being spiteful and using the cat as a way to depriving him of something that was bringing him joy.
She was constantly taking the cat away from me, and I felt that this was done to get a rise out of me, as she knew that it upset me. Alice knew that I cared for the cat, but constantly referred to me being affectionate with the cat and talking to him as weird when I had asked why she'd taken him away or pushed me and left the room. Alice messaged me that she realised I cared for the cat after we had broken up, but had still gone on to portray me being affectionate with the cat as a justifiable reason to physically assault me, which is why she had kept things intentionally vague when describing me talking to the cat as weird, and has cropped these texts, as Alice knew I was doing nothing out of the ordinary when it came to me and the cat.
From what I'm able to understand, the main reason that he keeps bringing up the cat in these interactions is to paint a picture showcasing the fact that Alice was also being emotionally and physically abusive to him, sometimes using the cat as an excuse to be physically abusive towards Alex. I could show every single example, but at that point, this is just going to be a longer video than the response, and the point is to try to keep this digestible. So we're going to move on to the next major point. In this chapter, he also goes on to showcase that Alice had been prepping and building up this document since January, and he shows this to further defend the point that he makes that she was using this as blackmail to keep them in the relationship together.
Alice told me if she wanted to expose me publicly that she would have posted a document about me. I later found out when my ex-girlfriend Jess messaged me that Alice had told Jess that she had been building a folder on me since January.
The next point that Alex brings up has to do with something that Alice had said in her statement. She says at the top of this, after I ended the relationship, he tried to manipulate me, telling me we just need time and that he will change, and begged me to give him a chance to change and make things better. More specifically, she says, started trying to get me back into the house, telling me he's put the bins out and asking me to come over for dinner. He refutes this claim by sharing evidence and saying this.
I am the one who asked her to dinner. When I showed in these messages, it was Alice who asked me. Alice complained that after she had moved out, I didn't seem panicked enough and sent me this text message. I moved out. I thought your mind would be more panicked that I won't come back. Alice also sent me text saying she had left because she wanted me to know what it's like to be without her. We had many conversations about getting back together, and when I realised I was being emotionally manipulated and blackmailed by Alice, I tried to break it off on multiple occasions.
I just wanted to include that second part of showcasing her saying those things and explaining why she had broken up, just to further showcase the point that he's making that I'm not fully including, about it not just being her leaving because of how abusive it was, but her also giving her own reasons and also being manipulative in her own way. He then goes on to showcase a few of the examples of Alice being a bit insecure. She was being a bit controlling in regard to who he was allowed to follow, things like that, which he claims that she had twisted in her recounting of the events, that he was following these people back after they had broken up out of spite for her to make her jealous, as opposed to just following back the people he wasn't allowed to follow while they were together.
I sent her this message to show that she was no longer in control of me and could no longer make me stop talking to my friends. Although we had been broken up for months at this point, Alice was still messaging me about the girls that I had followed on Instagram or friends that I had refollowed. Alice sent me this message saying that any girl that I speak to would be ugly anyway, and proceeded to insult them after claiming that she hasn't tried to stalk me or try to control me in her document.
I refollowed my friends when it became clear to me that I was being manipulated and blackmailed by Alice. This is because Alice had unfollowed them on my phone. I did not follow many girls I had had relations with, and we had not been together for months at this point.
He also makes point in regard to a claim that she had made that he had destroyed some of her monitors out of like anger or something, that she had just made that accusation, and following up, you can see in the text that he provides that he, number one, denies that he had broken them. He offers to pay for them and then asks and goes into how she had transported them, trying to figure out how they could have been broken. She says, I wrapped them in my blankets in a box like before.
I told Alice I did not know how this happened, but I offered to pay for new ones to avoid any more arguments, as I was already drained from the constant false accusations, threats, and blackmail.
The next point, which is really just more so him providing more evidence in support of the claim that she was being very controlling, has to do with his phone. Claims that Alice would repeatedly take his phone and ask for his phone to go through his text messages to verify that he wasn't cheating, things like that. He provides these text messages showing her being upset after he wouldn't give her her phone on one particular occasion, saying guilty AF, go away, and then following up with and implying that she had done this before, never was an issue before, why is it now? Your reaction alone tells me what I need to know. He responds back, if you have to come look, I've got 3% battery, and she said, I don't trust you. He says the reason that he wasn't comfortable showing his phone anymore to her is because he was talking to his friends and other people about the abuse that he was dealing with in the relationship with her. He was worried that if Alice saw these messages between those people of him talking about his experiences, that the abuse would get worse for him.
In the instance that Alice is referring to, I had refused to give her my phone because I had reached out to a friend of mine and I had told them that Alice had been hitting me, and that I didn't know what to do about it as she had threatened and blackmailed me when I had tried to leave our relationship.
Next up, he talks about the living situation. Specifically, in the document, Alice says, you can see he includes it in his video. At this time, he was looking to move house and I helped him. He assumed I was going to move in with him without asking me beforehand. I was brave enough to tell him I'm scared to move in with you because of how you treat me and insult me, and begged him to stop doing it and that he had to change. I end up calling him what he is and standing up for myself. No, it isn't pretty. He refutes this point by providing evidence showcasing her seemingly excitedly showing up and coming along with him to do tours of these houses that they were looking to buy.
Alice's mum drove us to viewings together, and it was something that we had been planning for months. I did multiple viewings of Alice, and we ended up picking a house together and moving in with each other, which would not be possible if I hadn't asked, as we were both on the lease. This is something that we had mutually discussed, and I do not understand why Alice has written this.
Up next, he talks about Alice claiming that he had forgotten about her birthday, bought her gifts late in the evening, and this sounds really dumb and not really worth covering, but I wanted to go over it because he provides very good examples and evidence to support the fact that what she said was just not true. That isn't to say I'm looking to defend the guy, I'm just looking at the evidence, and when there's a very clear indication of her just straight up lying, I feel it's useful to include that. You can see here, as he includes in his video, she says he ended up canceling coming to see me on my birthday or forgot it and went to see Star Wars with his friend instead of seeing me. When I told him it was my birthday, he ended up going out after the movie to grab a gift and eventually came to my place at midnight. I spent the whole day waiting for him. He invalidates my feelings after I said I got upset about it.
I did not forget Alice's birthday or cancel it, and the text messages from the day show that what Alice has written here is untrue. I was booked into a Star Wars premiere by my management, and I texted Alice straight away and made her aware that I was working earlier in the day, but that I could come over late. We hadn't arranged anything at this point, and there were no prior plans. I was telling Alice when I was available, and that I had work booked earlier in that day. I thought it was completely ordinary to go from work to see Alice on her birthday. Alice has written that I tried to arrange hanging out properly to justify apparently forgetting her birthday, even though the conversation was about her birthday and making plans for seeing her. This has nothing to do with Alice's birthday. I was simply telling her I wanted to hang out properly that day because the previous day we hadn't talked for very long. Alice then says I went to see a movie, but this is unfair as it was scheduled for work and I was transparent about this. Alice has said that I bought her a single gift after seeing the movie and that I eventually came to hers at midnight. I called Alice at 1 past midnight, the moment it had become our birthday, and I know this because I sent a picture of me calling Alice on iMessage, and we then spoke on Discord where I wished her happy birthday. Not only did I also text Alice throughout the day before I had left to see her, I wished her happy birthday on the text messages again for the second time after our call earlier in the morning. I had also bought Alice gifts in advance and wrapped them, and she knows this because I had already showed her that I had wrapped them before.
Now again, I feel like this point is a bit lower on the totem pole, but I did just want to provide clear-cut examples of him being able to defend himself from the claims that she made. Was this as serious as some of the other allegations that he's pushing back on? No, but it is showing examples of her manipulating or straight up being deceitful in regard to the truth of the situation, or at the very least, there is a clear second side to the story. Towards the end here, he starts talking about the different statements made by different people. The first two that he goes into detail about are his two previous exes that had come forth with their own statements, sharing their negative experiences or toxic relationships with him. The first ex, named Jess, talked with him, had released a statement and then deleted it, and then had messaged him. He says that they had resolved their issues, and he also showcases that Jess was asked by Alice to talk about the situation that they had gone through, and also includes in this example here, Alice talking about building up this case against Alex since January. The second ex, that goes by King Ani, released a statement talking about the incredible toxic relationship, and he outwardly and forthright denies all of it, saying that there is no evidence to support these claims as King Ani does not provide any of this evidence. He also goes on to showcase the fact that they had a seemingly good and positive relationship after they had broken up and had met each other on multiple occasions through different events, things like that, where there was no sign that she was incredibly upset or damaged by their relationship. Here's another example of her saying, "See you at VidCon, that'll be a blast." And then her following up saying, "Thank you for the night, it was a good time." And then him offering to say that she could use his mic and head over. And then she does agree to head over to his flat to hang out. The next statement came from a content creator that was under the same management as him. And they say this: "When I found out Alex and I were signed to the same talent agency, I immediately made them aware of the accusations and put pressure on them to drop him, which they did." This was June of 2023. He goes on to show evidence of him speaking with his management in January of 2024, that being 6 months after she had claimed that he was removed from the agency, showing that he had actually left on his own terms and was speaking to them to say that he wanted to be released from that management. Now, obviously, this video is up pretty quickly after his response came out, so I'm not going to have a very in-depth analysis myself. I'm interested to see what you guys have to say. Now, Alex repeatedly states that his actions are not absolved or he is not innocent simply because Alice had also been complicit in a lot of these issues and abuse that had happened. Now, it's a YouTube apology and his career is at stake. There is a conflict of interest. So to just make the assumption that all of this is legitimate or illegitimate, I don't think I could really make heads or tails of that. But I think Alex did an ample job of providing evidence and support to his argument back that this was not a one-sided situation, but in fact, it was both of them being incredibly horrid to each other. If it really comes down to just who fired the first shot being how you decide what side of this you want to be on, go for it. It's online drama about a relationship of two people that will truly never actually know the absolute truth about. And the only people that do know that are Alex and Alice and that poor cat that had to suffer through all of this. But that's all I've got for the video today. If this was a useful video for you, consider giving it a like. If you're new to the channel and want more stuff like this, consider subscribing. If you want to chat more about this drama or just game or talk about anything else, consider joining the Discord. It'll be in the comments down below. But thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys later. Adios. Peace. Bye. See you.